Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May 5th meeting of the Berkeley Unified School District Board of Education. Ms. Lopez, we are very happy to have you here this afternoon, filling in for Ms. Barrios, who traditionally fills in for Liz and Ms. Chavez. And so we're so happy to have you, Ms. Lopez. Can you please give us our opening spiel?
Thank you.
Thanks.
El siguiente mensaje será repetido en español. I would like to provide with a brief overview of tonight's meeting. After a few procedural items, the board will hear 30 minutes of public comment. At the end of the meeting, there will be another and final opportunity for additional public comment. If you do not get to speak at the beginning of the meeting, you can stay and speak at the end. To participate in public comment, please raise your hand now by clicking on the participants button at the bottom of your screen and selecting the raise your hand button. To comment by phone, you will be prompted to raise your hand by pressing *9. If you wait to raise your hand until the public comment period starts, you will not get to speak until you have to, you will not get to speak and you will have to wait until the next public comment period. When called upon, you will be prompted to a panelist. This means that you will appear on screen. If you do not wish to appear on camera, please be sure to disable your camera on your end. The board president will usually call on our students first. If you are a student who wishes to speak, write the word student or S at the end of your name. The board president will determine whether to set tonight's meeting speaking time at 1, 2, or 3 minutes per speaker. On an individual basis, she also has the discretion to allow for extra time for those who need translation or have other speech needs. There will be a timer displaying a countdown on your screen alerting you when your time has elapsed. If you are still speaking, you are allowed to finish your sentence, but please try not to speak beyond your time. Thank you. Voy a proporcionarles un resumen detallando el orden de esta reunión. Después de unos procedimientos preliminares, un periodo de 30 minutos será dedicado a comentarios públicos. Al final de la junta, que usualmente será cerca de las 10, habrá una segunda y última oportunidad para quienes deseen participar en comentario público y parte de miembros de la audiencia que no tuvieron la oportunidad de proporcionar comentario durante el primer periodo de comentario público. Para comentar por videoconferencia, favor de levantar la mano ya haciendo clic en el botón de participantes en la parte de abajo de la pantalla y seleccione el botón levantar la mano o raise your hand. Para comentar por teléfono, levante la mano presionando 9 o estrella 9. Favor de hacerlo ya, que si espera hasta el inicio del periodo de comentarios públicos tendrá que esperar hasta el final de la reunión para participar. Usualmente, la presidenta llamará a los estudiantes primero. Por favor, escribe estudiante o S detrás de su nombre. La presidenta de la mesa directiva otorgará 1, 2 o 3 minutos por orador y tiempo adicional a quienes requieren traducción o cualquier otra adaptación especial. Al ser llamado, será promocionado a panelista y aparecerá en la pantalla. Si no desea aparecer en la pantalla, por favor, apagar su cámara. Verá un reloj que muestra la cuenta regresiva en la pantalla, que le permite saber cuándo ha transcurrido su tiempo. Si continúa hablando, cuando se acabe el tiempo, puede terminar su oración, pero por favor trate de no sobrepasar su tiempo. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lopez, can you please call the roll of the Board of Directors? For the record, Ms. Lopez and community, both Student Director, Ms. Mascareña Swan, and Board Director, Ana Vasudev, are both excused for this evening.
Director Sinai?
Here.
Director Alper?
Here.
Vice President Abbott?
Here.
President Brown?
Present. Thank you. At this time, we need to approve the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
To approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Been moved by Director Alper, seconded by Director Sinai. Ms. Lopez, can you please call the roll?
Director Sinai?
Yes.
Director Alper?
Yes.
Vice President Babbitt?
Yes.
President Brown?
Yes, thank you. Normally, we would report out from closed session at this time, but as our agenda reflects, there was no closed session this evening, and I just want to make that make everyone in the community aware of that. We will now move to the first opportunity for public comment. If you would like to make a public comment to the Board of Education, this is the perfect time to raise your hand using the raise hand function on Zoom. As Ms. Lopez stated in her opening, if you are a student, please put student or S before or after your name. That way we can identify you as well as give you priority to speak first. At this time, I do not see any student speakers, so we will begin our public comment period with Lindsay Nofeld, followed by Shiska Modai.
How long is it? How long are they?
Thank you, Ms. Lopez. There are 9 public commenters, and we will end the public comment period with Ms. Z, and each public commenter will be given 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Hello, my name is, sorry, the view makes it hard to start. My name is Lindsay Nofelt. I'm a PTA member and parent. I generally champion advocacy for evidence-based literacy, but today I'm here to comment on BSEP. Our city consistently passes bond measures to fill the funding gap that the state of California leaves. And recent efforts to measure the impact of the programs are heartening, hopefully leading to improvements in strategy over the years. Tonight, as you review the way the bond measure is spent down, I ask that you keep in mind what will be important to help heal our students and community in the future. We need changes in the measure that appear on the ballot November 2024 to include expanded arts in every school with a robust dance and visual arts program staffed by dedicated art and dance teachers that will help impact students social, emotionally, and contribute to the health of civil society. To be clear, until the state steps up, this is in addition to maintaining small class sizes, libraries, professional development, interventions, and world-class music program, among other things. But my main point is that we shouldn't be depending on parents' fundraising capabilities to supply students with a good education. When we depend on the PTAs to fund the arts, we build a system of inequity where some schools have and others have not. And it's made worse by rising inflation and declining enrollment. At Cragmont, we're dealing with a $33,000 deficit this year in our fundraising. So our values as a community are clear. The impact of arts education has been proven time and time again. In the 2024 renewal, it'll be time to provide theater, dance, and visual arts education comparable to our district's super duper successful music instruction program. Thank you.
Thank you as well. Next, we will have Ms. Modai, followed by Mia Parsons.
Hi, my name is Shiksha Modi, and I'm speaking regarding the ongoing contract negotiations between BFT and BUSD. I'm an inclusion specialist at Malcolm X Elementary, and this is my first year teaching in BUSD. When I moved to the East Bay, I had a dream of living and working in Berkeley, my future children attending the school at which I teach. However, I'm concerned about my ability to stay here, as it has quickly become clear to me that living in Berkeley is inaccessible on current teacher salaries. It is frustrating that in a district that prides itself on inclusivity, teachers are not compensated sufficiently to be full members of our community. Teachers and their families should have access to our wonderful city, and raising teacher pay is essential to that goal. Many of my coworkers, particularly instructional aides, commute for hours and are already tired when they arrive at work each morning. It seems only just that we teachers, who provide such a valuable service to Berkeley, are paid so that the city can be more than just a place to work. I hope that Berkeley Unified recognizes the high cost of living and begins to meet the needs of such important contributors to our community. Thank you.
Thank you as well. Next, we will have Mia Parsons, followed by Alex Day.
Hello. My name's Mia Parsons, and I teach 3rd grade at Malcolm X Elementary School. I came here tonight to remind you that in order to keep well-trained teachers teaching in Berkeley, our jobs need to be sustainable. I would even argue that being asked to continue to carry and take on so much in return for such little compensation feels exploitative and unjust for what we know is a majority female workforce. I'm getting fed up with feeling underpaid and undervalued, and I know that I am not alone. Teachers are worthy of real value, not just in lip service, but in fair and just compensation. We are highly trained and well-skilled for our jobs. Now in my 12th year of teaching, I have enough experience that I am able to really differentiate my teaching in order to reach students that come to me at varying levels and with diverse learning styles and needs. And this skill and experience is needed now more than ever, with bigger gaps, wider gaps between students from the variety of experiences left over from the pandemic. Yet we are not adequately compensated for this expertise. This year, in the very least, we need an increase in pay to keep up with record inflation. Nationally, inflation was 8.5% from March to March. Our raise was 1%. I need more in order to stay teaching here in Berkeley. Our jobs are hard. We care so much for our students. We go above and beyond what's required and should be rewarded rather than punished or penalized for the critical work that we do as educating Berkeley students. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you as well, and thank you for being here this evening. Next, we will have Alex Day, followed by Jovel Queirolo.
Hello, everybody. Excuse me, I'm on my phone. I need to duck back and forth between these apps. Hello, BUSD School Board and everyone watching. My name is Alex Day, and I teach at Berkeley High School. I'm also a graduate of Berkeley High School, class of 2006, a Berkeley resident, and a parent of a soon-to-be kindergartner at Ruth Actie. I'm speaking tonight to urge everyone to strongly support BFT's proposals for smaller class sizes and higher salaries, as well as the proposals of my classified colleagues in BCCE, though I'm not familiar about their particular ones as much. Together, they will create the best learning conditions we can for our students. My largest class is 31 and my smallest is 25 in the U9 program. I teach ethnic studies and social living. Even in my smallest class of 25, I'm often literally jogging between students who need one-on-one check-ins about what to do or putting together the abstract ideas that we talk about in my class and connect them to particulars in their life or the world around them. My colleagues at Berkeley High School have classes as big as 34. Excuse my dog right here. There's a reason that local private high schools, St. Mary's, College Prep, Head Royce, all have class sizes under 20 for high school. Our public school students deserve the same amount of time and attention from the educators who serve them. Beyond class size, pay and benefits must be addressed now to make our district and this profession sustainable. As a working class family, the combined cost of childcare, healthcare, and rent for even a one-bedroom at market rate would have driven us to cheaper parts of the state or out of the state altogether, if it were not for us having housing through my parents who own a home in Berkeley. We can't depend on generational wealth or significant others with six-figure salaries to sustain our workforce, which, to be frank, is most of what I see to have younger people be able to live in this place, even within commuting distance, to be honest. I'm sorry, I want to check on my time. Your generous timing just give me a little more than what I had prepared. Okay, so briefly though, I do want to raise a couple specific issues from Berkeley High Starting by, I really want to salute our safety officers, our IAs, paraprofessionals, especially, well, everybody really, but especially the weight that Ms. Stacy has had to carry, being our only restorative justice coordinator at the school right now. And though I imagine my time's about to set up, I just want to really encourage us to get more people in those roles at higher salaries as well. Thank you.
Thank you as well. Next, we will have Jovel Rollo, followed by Celio Rios.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Jovel Carollo, and I'm known as Q at Longfellow Middle School, where I teach 6th and 7th grade science. I was first drawn to teach in BUSD because of the district's commitment to social justice and equity, especially its commitments to improving outcomes for Black students. When asked to speak at this meeting about increasing teacher salaries, my confidence in the district is wavering. Around 10% of the science majors at my alma mater, Stanford University, were first-generation BIPOC students. Almost all of them chose careers in tech, business, or medicine. Teaching was not an option for them if they were to interrupt the cycles of poverty they grew up with. This phenomena has resulted in a predominantly white STEM teacher population. We know that BIPOC students are more likely to connect with the teacher they see themselves in. This is my 7th year teaching science. Half of the math and science teachers I went to teacher school with left the profession to work in tech, science industry, or to pursue PhDs. Why stay in teaching when their STEM degrees can earn them twice as much elsewhere? If BUSD teacher salaries are not competitive, BUSD is doing a disservice to BIPOC students in the district. A revolving door of new teachers who don't represent them will only lead to fewer BIPOC students choosing STEM majors in college. At Longfellow, the entire science department was hired within the last 3 years. Meanwhile, the Bay Area School District, MVLA, pays its first-year teachers a starting salary of $92,000, $95,000 if they have a master's degree. The primarily white and Asian MVLA student population is taught by well-paid veteran teachers who have the experience and resources to make science an irresistible subject to learn about. It's no wonder STEM majors are primarily earned by upper-class white and Asian students coming from districts like MVLA. BUSD is perpetuating systemic racism within STEM majors and fields by underpaying teachers, including math and science teachers. I strongly urge the district to consider how paying teachers a more competitive salary can disrupt systemic racism within STEM majors and fields in order to achieve its goals of increasing equity and opportunity for BIPOC students.
Thank you, and thank you for being here this evening. Next, we will have Cielo Rios, followed by Forrest Ford.
Hi, I'm Cielo, an Emerson parent and member of the PTA, and I am asking again for a review of the $3 million of Measure G funds that were used in a no-bid contract with Schneider Electric to ensure that this $3 million is in line with Section 1 of Measure G to, quote, better prepare campuses to ensure the safety of students from natural disasters and other threats and risks. Is funding for Measure G appropriate if it is used to install sensors that aren't tracking indoor air quality measurements, ionizers that are not approved by the CDPH, and replaceable MERV 13 filters anyone can buy for $20 at Home Depot? I continue asking for transparency on the facilities needs assessment report that informed the superintendent's prioritization of bond measure scheduling for Measure G, because the report for the Emerson site is full of contradictory, missing, and incorrect calculations and assessments that should have already been addressed based on the accountability measures laid out in Section 2 of the bond measure language itself. Please help our community. Our kids are worth it. Thank you for the time.
Thank you as well. And thank you for being here. Next, we'll have Forrest, followed by Mati Tipo.
Hi, and thank you for having me. My name is Forrest Borey. I teach world history, part of the two-way immersion program at Longfellow Middle School, 7th graders. Thank you for your attention today and your commitment to make BUSD a model for equity. I sure hope that it actually lives up to that during my tenure here. So I am here today because I care for my students. I would like to advocate for enough funding to ensure that moving forward, that we always have a permanent substitute teacher on campus. So earlier this year, I was out for 8 school days with COVID, and having an on-campus permanent substitute teacher already familiar with my students who would communicate with me daily helped me reduce my stress level and definitely facilitated student learning. A permanent on-campus substitute teacher can do a lot more than just substitute classes. Ours has done one-on-one check-ins with many of our students who need help getting organized, finishing assignments, and getting their grades up. A teacher in this role can help out with student-teacher relationships or assist new teachers debuting activities and projects. And that's the majority of what I have to say. I really want to push for that we permanently have an on-campus substitute teacher. I want to thank the other speakers for what they said as well, and also advocate for higher pay and reduced class sizes as well. So when it comes to education, more than any other part of our society, we need to be ideal. We need to be idealistic about education. There's no teacher on our campus who has a job that is less important than the professors at the university. And I think that coming together, we can ensure that it is actually realized on a societal level that we are fulfilling a role. We're asking singular people to teach 125, 150 individuals, and it's an amazing job, and it deserves the respect and compensation that it deserves. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you as well. Next, we will have Mati, followed by our last public commenter for this evening, which will be Ms. Z.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to participate. I have no idea what I'm going to do with 3 minutes. I hope it's going to be less than that. I'm here to speak again about Measure G, specifically, but in general about BUSDs and the board's decision-making process in allocating funds for infrastructure projects. Despite multiple emails, myself and others have not received substantial responses as to specific questions about the decision-making process that led to the parking garage and then the addition of the P&O facility on Milvia Street. The silence is deafening, and I hope it's not telling. What started as a concern whether the districts and the board have nothing to show to sustain or support the process is slowly becoming to a suspicion that maybe the board and the district have something to hide about this process. I'm usually not a conspiracy theorist, and I try to truly believe in the good intents, well-intentioned decisions, but it is hard to explain, to rationalize the decisions. It is inexplicable, the silence from the board and the district as to providing any substantial information to support these decisions. If the board wants to maintain this atmosphere of concern and suspicion, it's in the right path. But I hope that's not your intent. And I hope you take the time to look into it and share the information. And most importantly, revisit these very, very problematic decisions. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you as well. And for our final comment of the evening, Ms. C.
There we go. Hi, sorry, just getting screens taken care of. My name is Zia Manikin-Hurdy, and this is my 7th year teaching 3rd grade at Malcolm X. And I'm also a parent of a full inclusion student. I share concerns about our pay not being sustainable with the rising cost of living, but I know you'll heed what you've heard from my colleagues on that matter tonight. Tonight, I want to focus on larger class sizes and give you a snapshot of how that will affect my classroom next year. Next year, I'm slated to have 28 students in my 3rd grade classroom. That's 9 more students than I have this year, a nearly 30% increase. Every year, I have a lot of students come into 3rd grade thinking they don't like writing. Developmentally, this makes a lot of sense. Their amazing vocabularies aren't captured with the spelling rules they've learned. They've got big feelings they can't yet articulate and opinions they don't know how to explain. They've had enough reading experience to know how good reading can be, but they often feel their own writing just doesn't measure up. I love telling that big pile of reluctant writers at the start of the year with confidence that this year, their 3rd grade year, will be the year that they learn to love writing. I tell my classes at the start of the year that transforming kids who think they hate writing into powerful, confident authors is my superhero power. But none of my students learn to love writing through magic. I would argue their magical writing journey doesn't even start in a notebook. They learn that having meaningful stories, they have meaningful stories, that they are persuasive authors with opinions that matter by first having an audience for their lives. Someone who will reflect back to each of them what they might eventually capture in a notebook. This year, I listen deeply to each of my 19 students when I chat with them about what's going on in those few minutes before school. I help them spin their individual thoughts into story arcs. I teach them to use their own words in writing to make changes in their school and community. While my mini lessons on story structure, phonics, and elaboration could be taught to a much larger class, I'm worried my individual listening to my individual students will suffer with 28 students next year. How will I provide them with the audience that they deserve that shows them how much their words matter? That superhero listening that is enabled by smaller class sizes, that connection with individual students that transforms them so powerfully, isn't just about empowering my students. It is truly what keeps me teaching. I hope you'll commit to keeping our class sizes small as a way of keeping teachers in Berkeley. Thank you.
Thank you as well. Thank you to all of our public commenters this evening and to all of you who are here with us for this evening's board meeting. Next, we will move to committee comments. Is there anyone here to represent committees for committee comments this evening? I see Terry Patstica representing P&L. Associate Superintendent, can you please promote Terry Patstica? Thank you. Hi, Terry, welcome.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity. So my name is Terry Pastica. I'm here representing the district's Planning and Oversight Committee. And the P&O makes recommendations on expenditures for BSEP and BERA, the 2 tax measures that together represent $43 million in revenue generated each year for the district, which is about 30% of the USD's budget. The P&O membership represents every school in the district, and our members have anywhere from 1 to 10 years serving on the committee. So we have a great combination of people with a lot of institutional knowledge and really fresh perspectives. Tonight, you're hearing a presentation from the Director of Local Resources, who will provide you with an overview of several BSEP budgets that came before the P&O for approval. Collectively, those BSEP budgets you're looking at tonight account for more than 12 million out of the 33 million in BSEP annual expenditures. They include professional development, research and evaluation, expanded course offerings, classroom support, libraries, music and VAPA, instructional technology, student achievement strategies, and counseling. So why are we here tonight? The P&O is here to recommend that you approve the budgets as presented by Director Fleming. We are also here tonight to ask you that as you listen to Director Fleming's presentation, that you keep in mind 3 major themes that have come up at virtually all of the P&O meetings this year. The first, number 1, in response to concerns voiced by the P&O, each budget manager has revised their reporting document to the P&O to specifically include an evaluation and assessment of their program with an eye on equitable support for all students. Reporting, evaluating, and assessing elements of equity within each program area will be repeated every year within the BSEP budgeting process. Number 2, we're asking you to remember that with respect to the BSEP budgets, we're in a deficit spending mode. And in the coming 12 to 24 months, which are in the twilight years of the measure that we're in right now, the board is going to have to make difficult decisions regarding BSEP expenditures to make sure that the measure ends up in a fiscally healthy position. Third, throughout the year, the P&O has consistently requested the drafting of clear, quantitative and qualitative measures for each BSEP budget area to help the P&O assess the impact that BSEP spending is having on BUSD students. Having a clear understanding of outcomes is especially important in the event that the BSEP budgets need to be reduced in the coming years. We understand that setting qualitative and quantitative measurements and expectations can be difficult, but we believe BUSD can do better. And as we tell our kids, perseverance is the key to success, and we should be holding ourselves to that same standard. We sincerely appreciate Director Fleming's work to improve evaluation of efficacy of BSEP spending, and we know she is committed to the same over the coming months. Lastly, we really wanted to give a shout out and acknowledgement and a thank you to Director Fleming for her first year at BUSD and for her dedication to oversight work. She's been a wonderful partner, taking the reins after Natasha Berry's great leadership for so many years. And we also wanted to give a heartfelt thank you and recognition of acknowledgement to Program Specialist Danielle Perez, who has been an incredible resource and steady hand as the BSEP office has navigated this transition. So thank you for this opportunity, and we look forward to hearing your discussion.
Thank you as well. Are there any other committee comments this evening? Seeing none, we will move to union comments. Ms. Lopez, are there any union comments this evening?
I did not receive any.
No union comments this evening. We will move to board director comments. I will begin the comments with Director Sinai, if that's okay. Director Sinai, are you ready?
Sure. Sorry, I was just confirming on my calendar. I just, first of all, thank you to all the teachers and parents and community members who came to public comment. I always value hearing your perspectives and what's happening on the ground. My only real comment today is that just a reminder that my open office hours have been bumped from this coming Sunday to the next in honor of Mother's Day. And so I will be at 1:30 to 3 o'clock at James Kenney Park on May 15th. No need to make an appointment, but it is kind of a first come, first serve. So as people arrive, I will meet with folks. So thanks, and I appreciate everybody's work, and thank you for the BSEP presentation in advance.
Next, we'll move to Director Alper.
Thank you, President Brown. Yeah, I just wanted to thank people for coming out, and Ms. Pasticon for her report on behalf of the P&O committee, which puts in many, many hours of time reviewing our BSEP budgets and working with Director Fleming and Danielle Perez. And it's just a lot of work that tends to go unrecognized. So we'll get a chance to thank you, Director Fleming, when you give your presentation, but I wanted to thank the community members who are part of that oversight committee that's so critical to good stewardship of those funds. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Next, we will move to Vice President Abbott.
Thank you so much. I also wanted to say good evening to everyone and thank you all for coming out. Tonight, I wanted to address some of the emails and concerns that I've been getting and to publicly share my requests to the superintendent for the May 18th presentation on the virtual academy. Number one, I'd like to know what is the projected cost per student and how does that compare to the cost per student we will expect to receive next year? Number two, what is the funding formula for public online K-12 schools? Number three, why is it the BUSD independent study program does not meet the needs of our most medically challenged student? And number four, what is the cost of virtual academy programs in other local districts and why is this so much higher or lower than BUSD's? I also want to thank everyone for the questions that we're getting regarding BUSD's mental health services, and I look forward to that upcoming presentation as well. Announcement, Saturday, May 21st, the Berkeley Public Schools Funds Block Party, which will be at Center and Shattuck Avenue in Berkeley from 12 to 3 p.m. Please come and support this organization that supports all of our students, staffs, and families with genuine love and charity. Lastly, I want to wish everyone a joyous Cinco de Mayo and a joyful time as we wrap up the end of the year. So many end of the year festivities will be happening soon, so please be excellent, be enriched, and be forever grateful for the time you are spending with one another in community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. For my comments this evening, I will keep them pretty brief, but first I want to start off by wishing everyone a happy AAPI Heritage Month, as well as a happy Jewish American Heritage Month. You will see that our backgrounds on our screens today, all of us have various ones represent AAPI Heritage Month as well as Jewish American Heritage Month. I'm going to try to get like Director Alper and try to split my screens, but if I'm not able to do that, you will see me changing my screen back and forth between AAPI Heritage Month and Jewish American Heritage Month. There are so many contributions that both of these incredible groups have brought to not just American history, but to our world globally. And so I stand in honor and appreciation of the opportunity to celebrate this month. And so we celebrate and we honor that today and throughout the rest of the month of May. Additionally, I'd like to give an appreciation to all of those who work together to support the elementary version of the Black History Month Oratorical Fest. And I want to give a huge congratulations to our first place winner, Memedi Bagura, who was the first place winner for our elementary students. And so congratulations to him. I want to also congratulate all of the participants, all of the excited family members, and thank our wonderful staff who helped to coordinate that event. Lots of OFE participation, as well as our phenomenal MCs for that event, none other than Associate Superintendent Ruben Aurelio, as well as Paula Phillips. Thank you all so much for your work in making that an excellent event. Thank you, Director Babbitt, for highlighting the Berkeley Public Schools Fund Block Party that will happen on the 21st. I'm excited about celebrating our educators, donors, as well as those who have supported the Berkeley Public Schools Fund and Berkeley Public Schools. I think that is it for it is not it for my comments this evening. This is a very special week. This is Teacher Appreciation Week. So all of you who know me know that this is probably one of my favorite weeks ever, because it is our opportunity to celebrate our teachers for their hard work and for the waves that they have made in our classrooms and throughout our schools and ultimately in our city. So to all of our teachers watching tonight here in Berkeley Unified School District, thank you, thank you, thank you. We appreciate you more than you will ever know. In addition to it being Teacher Appreciation Week, it is also Nutritional Service Workers Week as well. And so we have to thank our nutritional service workers for the ways that they continue to make and for the incredible opportunities that our students are afforded through their wonderful nutritional services. So thank you all. Finally, happy Mother's Day and enjoy a phenomenal Cinco de Mayo. All right, I said I was going to keep them short, but I did not. So now it's over to you, Superintendent Stevens. We'll see how long you'll go, or if you'll be able to keep it short. Go ahead.
I feel like you're challenging me now.
It is a little bit, a little. Let's see.
And I assume the challenge, President Brown, is to be as long-winded as possible. Is that?
I think that's it. Yeah, that's what I said.
Am I reading I'm reading the cues correctly?
Yeah.
Well, seeing as how you listed every day of the year, it seems, in your opening comments, let me ask you a question. Did you know that Sunday was Principal Appreciation Day?
I did not know that. So give me one more second. Take a moment of personal privilege. And happy Principal Appreciation Day to all of our phenomenal principals throughout BUSD. Now over to you, Superintendent.
I'm going to make two observations about
fellow board member appreciation day today too.
Is there one?
No, I'm kidding.
No, he's making that up.
I don't know what raw deal got principals a Sunday. That just does not seem fair that it would be over a weekend that our hardworking principals would get their day of observation on a day they don't come to work. I'm also going to note two other special days as well. I want to offer all of our teachers, including our classified staff who serve as really critical teachers of all of our young people, a very happy Teacher Appreciation Week. You really are the heart and soul of our district, and we appreciate every single one of you. One last final sort of day call out among the members of the audience. Board members will know that my mother is often a viewer, and her birthday is coming up on May 14th in between our board meetings. So happy birthday, Mom. I love you very much. I also want to just call out that May is a special month. We are observing around the district AAPI Heritage Month and as well Jewish American Heritage Month. A couple things to note about both of these. For folks in our community who would like to learn more about each of these celebrations, please check out the wonderful set of resources developed by our educators available on our website. They include really rich reading lists for both AAPI Heritage Month as well as Jewish American Heritage Month. That second reading list is new for our district, and we're very proud of it. So please go check it out. And a special thanks to our librarians who put together the Jewish American Heritage Month list over the last couple of weeks. I really hope that members of the community will join us for a very special event on May 19th. That happens to be Yuri Kochiyama's birthday. This will be the second in what I hope is a long series of observations during AAPI Heritage Month about the many contributions of AAPI community members to our district and to our community. We're really happy to feature three very well-known children's book authors as part of a celebration of literacy and literature. I'd also like members of the community to know that we are currently soliciting members for a refreshed Gender Equity and Sexual Harassment Advisory Committee. Last week, I issued a letter both out to our community and all of our staff soliciting members on this committee, and we're hoping to be able to conduct an orientation of the committee prior to the end of the school year, anticipating a launch of this committee in the 22-23 school year. On May 25th, we're very happy to be hosting a town hall, one in English and one in Spanish. This will focus in on our middle school student assignment policy. We'd like to be able to share updated maps of 3 different options for a potential shift in our middle school enrollment policy. And as well, we'll be sharing cost projections of a number of programming and transportation options associated with each of these 3 policy proposals. So please join us on the 25th for folks who have followed along this year-long conversation. And for folks who are new to it, you can find all kinds of information on our website about this policy discussion. Another a pretty awesome community event is taking place on Saturday, May 21st. This one is hosted by the Schools Fund. It's a Saturday block party to celebrate the spirit of volunteerism in our schools over the last 2 years. So it's taking place right downtown. I believe it's at the just at the intersection of Center and Shattuck. So please come down, enjoy each other's company, and there will be a special mural unveiling at that particular block party. A note about our budget. Over the course of the next six weeks, observers of the board are going to see more presentations, discussions, and action items by the board about our 22-23 budget. These are important discussions that will influence the shape of programs over the course of the coming school year. We're all very heartened to see that at the state level, there has been some good news take place even as recently as last week. We now know that the cost of living adjustment for public schools in California will be 6.5%, still short of inflation, but nonetheless a welcome number. And then we should all be reminded that as more money comes into schools, that we're also experiencing cost increases. That includes the effect of inflation on things like gasoline and materials, but also includes statutory increases to retirement benefits and workers' compensation, as well as the impact of reduced student enrollment here in Berkeley. We have no word yet about COVID mitigations and whether or not the state will help us continue the fight against COVID transmission in our schools. And so for folks who are interested in advocacy, there are still very important discussions taking place at Sacramento to secure an adequate level of funding for our public schools for the coming school year. So that's a lot of news, lots and lots going on as we jump into the month of May, and I appreciate having the opportunity to share it with our community. Back to you, President Brown.
Thanks so much, Superintendent Stevens. We will now move to approve the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll move it.
Moved by Director Alper. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Vice President Babbitt. Is there any in readiness? Hearing none, Ms. Lopez, can you please call the roll?
Director Sinai,
Yes.
Director Alper,
Yes.
Vice President Abbott,
Yes.
President Brown.
Yes, thank you. We will now move on to our one and only action item of the evening. It's going to be a fairly short meeting, you all, but we have one action item for this evening as introduced in some of the public comments earlier, as well as from Ms. Patsika. And that is tonight to focus on the Berkeley Schools Excellence Program Special Tax, which we, so fondly call BSEP. And so BSEP, or you can also call it Measure E1, provides essential resources to the Berkeley Public Schools amounting to approximately 19% of the district's annual budget. And so tonight we will do an approval of the recommendation for the expenditures for BSEP for the funds for the 2022 as well as the 2023 school year, specifically for high quality instruction. And so I am excited and happy to welcome for, I think, her first board presentation since she has been here in Berkeley Unified School District, Kathy Fleming. Director Fleming, welcome. We're so excited to have you here in Berkeley as well as here tonight for the board meeting.
Thank you, President Brown. It's actually my second appearance. I did appear in the fall. You may remember a brief introduction and a passing of the torch from Director Beery to myself.
That is correct. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for that introduction. I'm going to share my screen. Bear with me if I are you seeing the slideshow?
Yes, we can see it perfectly. Thanks.
Okay. Oops, sorry, I'm on the wrong monitor here. Okay, good evening, directors. My name is Kathy Fleming, and I am the Director of Local Resources here at Berkeley Unified, and I'm happy to be before you tonight to present the annual plans for 22-23 for the majority of the BSEP programs. Tonight's agenda includes overviews and background information and summary and changes in plans and some projections. And we are going to also touch upon the evaluation conversation that we've been having at the P&O and turn it over for approvals and questions and discussions. Just a note that at the next regular board meeting on May 18th, we will be discussing and approving the final plans remaining for BSIP and BERA that are listed there, as well as the reauthorization timeline and next steps for BSIP. So here's an overview slide on BSIP and BERA, just for a reminder. Since 1986, voters have supported BSIP to provide additional supports to schools for smaller class size, student support programs, music, libraries, and budgets for school sites. And BERA was passed in 2020 to recruit and retain qualified teachers and to prevent shortages of essential school staff by addressing educator recruitment and retention, particularly in hard to fill areas. Big shout out and a thank you to the P&O and Terry Pastica, thank you. And I want to thank the whole P&O and the co-chairs, Nicole Chabot and Weldon Bradstreet, for your leadership with this very thoughtful group that spends many hours reviewing many reports, vetting many drafts, and having very thoughtful in-depth discussions about BSIP and BERA programming and the future of these measures and evaluation and many other topics. The plans that you are reviewing for tonight for approval have received extensive vetting by the P&O. A number of drafts have been reviewed. Managers have visited the P&O through a series of meetings. Questions were answered, discussions were held, and feedback was provided. So thank you to the P&O for your hard work. And I'd also like to echo what Terry Pastica said about our program specialist, Danielle Perez, who is awesome and much appreciated. And between her and the P&O, I've had a lot of help and guidance in my first year. So thank you to all. Okay, so now we are looking at the framework for BSIP. 66% is in the high quality instruction program area, which we will also call HQI. And for class size reduction, the support for teachers, or excuse me, for class size reduction that was passed in March by this board, and that is the through the teacher template, which provides additional teachers through BSIP to reduce class sizes. And for the remaining funds, which we'll review tonight, we have program development, program evaluation, classroom support, and expanded course offerings. And then we'll go forward and look at some of the programs and essentials for excellence program area, libraries, music and VAPA, and instructional technology, and then wrapping it up with student achievement strategies and counseling. Just a note about these plans for tonight, they are largely unchanged, mostly unchanged from this year, particularly because, as has been discussed in the comment for committees by Ms. Pastica, we are looking at potential or probably necessary reductions in 23 and 24 to bring this measure in balance by the end of this measure. So therefore, we have no discernible or big increases. There's minor increases and changes, which are noted throughout the plans and noted throughout this slide deck presentation. There are increases for regular salary and benefit annual increases, but there are no bargaining outcomes projected or included in any way in these plans. Okay, so that's that. Okay, so now we're going to look at the BSIP high quality instruction budget for the whole 66%. The revenue next year is 22 million, and from that we deduct the cost of the teacher template, which this next year is coming in at 16 million, which leaves about 6 million for programming. And these program amounts have been updated for the 22-23 projected amounts, which including once we add indirect costs, we come out to 7.5 million cost for these programs, which added to our cost for the teacher transfer or class size reduction brings us to a cost of 23.5 million. Compared to our revenue means we have a deficit spending situation of 1.4 million projected. So just a note that this is what's driving our need to decrease the program costs in this area, whether our fund balance is high or low. We still can't go into the next measure with a deficit spending for these programs. So we'll talk about that on an upcoming slide. And this has been, as you heard in the comments, a major focus of the P&O and is a continual discussion. And these projections are reviewed pretty often in the meetings. So moving forward, we'll get into the program area. So for these 4 program areas, for the HQI program areas, I provided a 4-year snapshot. So you can see the changes over the years. And here we have 2 areas highlighted in yellow, which represent 2 minor changes. The goal of the PD program is to provide professional development opportunities for teachers and staff to improve teaching and practice and to support strategies that improve student outcomes. The budget remains largely unchanged. We do have an increase of a 0.2 for a district-wide K-5 literacy coach. Combined with other funding, this will provide a full 1.0 for next year to assist in implementing the literacy action plans. Also, we had an adjustment in the cost for stipends. The stipends were not necessarily increased. We just had to adjust that cost to have it be more accurate. Next program, program evaluation. This is the Brea department. And you can see there are absolutely no changes from the current year. The program evaluation plan for next year is unchanged. However, there is restructuring and reprioritization of the department under the leadership of Director Ruth Steele Brown. And per Director Steele Brown, and as outlined in the plan, the current research, evaluation, and assessment department will undergo a restructuring and envisioning process to determine the most essential equity-focused research services for the student, staff, and BUSD community at large. More details are in the plan, and I do encourage you to look at the plans. There's 3 attachments in board docs, and they're grouped by program area, and there are a lot of details and changes in the content, not necessarily the budget, but there are many updates in the plans, in the activities, strategies of activities, etc. The last 2 programs in this program area are expanded course offerings and classroom supports, also unchanged. The expanded course offerings program provides funding for teachers for classes before and after school. Often these are offerings that provide equitable access, increased opportunities, and supports not always available during the regular instructional day. At middle schools, examples include an after-school jazz program, guitar, advanced Spanish, journalism, and math support sections. And at Berkeley High, we have a number of science lab courses for smaller class size and increased support, as well as other courses. The classroom support area is designed for additional staffing. It's time to take vitamin D. Sorry about that. And that remains unchanged, but this is to support special programs at school sites for which program funding does not exist. And okay, so this is important. This is our HQI, our high quality instruction multi-year scenario with some assumptions here. There are many unknowns, and these unknowns unfold over time, but for the purposes of this discussion, the COLA is at 2%. For reference, we had a COLA at 4.2% for next year. So it could be coming higher at 2%. We kept enrollment flat at the current rates, which reflect the recent decline over the last 2 years, and just added a mild 1% for step and column across all the programs. And here we're projecting that if we reduce costs in year 7 and year 8, we could eliminate deficit spending going into the next measure. And this is one of 2 scenarios I presented to the P&O, and they are also included in the attachment 1 at the end, both scenarios. So while it looks like we have a healthy fund balance, 2.2 million going into the next measure, as I mentioned before, there are many variables that are unknown, such as teacher costs, which will be driven by bargaining outcomes, the COLA, and any changes in enrollment, which will drive changes in the teacher template. Okay, moving on to the next area, library program. So for these 3 next programs, I have included in the slides a summary of changes on the right-hand side of the slide and additional notes. And I'll run through some additional information while you review that. let's see, the library program fosters curiosity, creativity, and critical thinking, and a love for reading. We have fully staffed libraries in every school in Berkeley Unified. The staff works directly with classroom teachers, staff, and families to deepen reading engagement, build digital literacy and digital citizenship, and improve student achievement and engagement for each and every student. Included in this budget is a previous one-time expenditure cost for infrastructure. That's $100,000. This covers things such as tech upgrades and furnishings and shelvings and other needs for the library space themselves. This was previously funded in Measure A, and in our next regular board meeting, I'll be bringing to you the Measure A plan for next year, which includes a closing out of the Measure A fund balances. The libraries has a fund balance, and what we expect, and I'll go into more detail on that at the next meeting, but as a result of that closing out, we will see an increase in the fund balances in libraries and VAPA. So this deficit spending that you see is partly could be one time, and we'll have to review that, but also ending fund balance is anticipated to grow a bit in both of those programs. For this next slide on music or VAPA, a few things in the music VAPA. Things to note, at the top, we have the music teacher transfer to the general fund, and that is to pay for additional 4th and 5th grade music teachers that provide release time for classroom teachers, and enables also the increase of offerings of additional instrumental opportunities at elementary schools. Also included on their budget is funding to ensure that 100% of every 4th and 5th grade student receives music instruction twice a week, which I have yet to find in any other public school in the Bay Area, but I'm still looking. So we're very fortunate to have universal instrumental music. Also, we have middle school teachers for 6th grade band, 7th and 8th grade band, 2 levels of orchestra, chorus, jazz band, and guitar, as well as other supports for the other disciplines in the arts. Also included here, there's a mistake on the bottom right bullet. It should really read that the one-time cost, including not sheet music, because that's no longer happening, but includes deferred maintenance of instruments. These are your larger instruments that need to be replenished on a cycle at school sites. And also, this was what was formerly budgeted in Measure A. And again, we'll be bringing that Measure A plan to you next meeting, but we do anticipate the fund balance here to increase from that Measure A closeout. And we'll explain the details of that. But this budget does have some one-time spending, but also some deficit spending. So we are going to take a closer look in the fall at the music VAPA budget to determine, after we close out Measure A and look at the unaudited actuals from this year, what we're really up against, and if any reductions or elimination of some kind of cycle purchases will need to be made. Next, we have Instructional Technology. This program funds school computer technicians to work with all school sites, all teachers and staff, to keep computers, tablets, projectors, printers, and more functioning properly to help integrate technology with the curriculum, to support teachers in the use of software such as Illuminate and Infinite Campus, as well as to help technology committees and school site councils make decisions about technology expenditures. Also included are 19 tech teacher leaders at every site to provide support for more effective use of technologies in instruction, and an $8 per student allocation for each school site to provide technology equipment repairs and software licenses as requested by the principal. The fund balance is healthy in this program. We'll continue to watch that over time. Moving forward, the next section is effective student support. And the important thing to know about this section of funding is that these two programs, counseling and student achievement strategies, share 7% of the BSEP allocation, which means that the revenues are fluid in that they can be used for either purpose. And that becomes apparent in the next couple of slides, and I'll point that out. But in the meantime, I'm just showing you here that the budgets remain unchanged and the same as this year. But remember, we will have increases in our programs due to regular salary and benefit increases. Okay, student achievement strategies. This includes allocations for your RTI teachers and literacy coaches for elementary and middle school sites. Also is the continued support for our 2 teacher leaders at Berkeley High for the African American Studies Department and our African American Success Framework, the Puente program, and the Be a Scientist Middle School program. Spending rate here is sustainable, and there's a healthy fund balance, which we may need to do some balancing here to support counseling moving forward, because counseling is not sustainable. As you can see, the cost of the positions exceeds the revenue allocation, and there's a dwindling fund balance. So we're going to be working on a plan and have the P&O review that in the fall, and moving forward, we'll be able to balance those 2 programs together. For counseling, the school sites use their budgets, their site budgets for Title I or BSEP to round up counseling to allocations to have more than what you see here out of BSEP. But what I have here under additional notes is what was at the middle schools for counselors for this year. So once the schools are completed in that process, we'll know what the number of counselors for each middle school is. So budget takeaways and next steps. There are some factors we need to keep our eyes on and update information ongoing to do projections for our ending fund balance, as well as our program costs, not just for HQI, but across all programs to make sure they're sustainable through the end of the measure. Main point, preventing the need to increase taxes in the next measure. So this is a stay tuned, but we do know that we need to reduce HQI program costs in 23-24. So now I'm going to shift over to evaluation and present a few of the slides that I've reviewed with the P&O twice this year. And the P&O so far has had 12 meetings, and we have a couple more scheduled this year. But as you've heard, evaluation is a priority of the P&O, and so is it of our office and our district. And it's really important on many levels why we pursue more aggressive evaluation for our BSEP and BERA programs. As you can see, these reasons listed here, main reasons are to understand where we're doing well, to look at our gaps in equity and what we're serving, who we're serving, what we're providing, who's accessing our services, if they're effective, and to improve programs, and also as important to build and sustain our public trust in the use of these funds, and to identify changes and needs for the next measure, as well as to communicate the impact of these funds to the citizens of Berkeley and the community at large. Challenges we face in program evaluation with these particular measures are that it's a huge part of the budget. It's about 25% of the budget when you combine BSEP and BERA. And there's a wide variety of program types and activities, and it's hard to have an approach that covers all of them. There's multiple sources for programs at varying different rates, and annual changes in the multiple sources. And historically, there's been things that have shifted into BSEP and possibly out. Although I will note, I forgot to mention this, that nothing has been shifted into BSEP from any other funding source for 22-23. And it's a unique portfolio of investments, and students participate in multiple programs. We can't isolate any one group of students from another to test or evaluate the participation in one activity or another, or one program. And BSEP has changed over the years. There are some through lines and consistent investments, but as a whole, it hasn't remained the same over the years. And it can be time consuming and expensive. But I will say, working with what BREA is doing with district-wide data and the approaches that they are taking and the data they are collecting will be something that we'll align with, and we will not be working as a separate silo or a separate project. We will be working together on how both of these efforts align and support each other. So as Terry Pastica mentioned in her comments, the managers have addressed these 5 major areas beginning in the program's proposals for this year, and that's continued for next year. However, we did attempt and succeed to some regard in expanding how we're addressing these 5 areas, and we've given more examples of what we could track and what we are tracking, and then in the moving forward, we want to include more extensively actual data and reporting out on what programs are tracking and what we're tracking district-wide. One way to look at the evaluation approach is to look at the relationship between our investments, where we're investing our money, what programs, what they quote unquote buy us, our offerings, our access, our participation, and all of these can be looked at and evaluated with an equity lens to find our gaps and ensure appropriate participation and access. And you know, the impact areas that we can say that are immediately possibly, hopefully improved by these outputs are what you see here: cultural climate, engagement, academic achievement, staff capacity, recruitment and retention, and student overall well-being. And all of the investments in some way contribute to the overall goals of the district. So if we work on a strategic plan moving forward, for example, and we have major goals, that is something we can use to drive not only the way we evaluate BSIP and BERA, but also the way we plan in BSIP and BERA. And here's just a list of, not the whole list, but program data, ways we can look, things that we can look at on the program level: enrollment, participation, offerings, surveys, and district-wide data. Here's an extensive list of other district-wide indicators that we can use, that we know that our programs that we invest in play some part in improving. And then there's ways to disaggregate our data through an equity lens in these various ways. And moving forward, here are what some next steps could look like: adopting a broader approach, working with P&O, district leadership, Board of Ed, program managers, and district staff as a whole to work on a broader approach, and inventory our current measures, see what we have this year, which has already began, identify what's happening district-wide, what's available, what we can use, and then look at data and disaggregate it and analyze it at the program level or district level, and create an annual summary of outcomes and progress, and then use this in a cycle of improvement. So that concludes the evaluation slides. And so we have here, questions and discussions, and hopefully approval of the plans, discussion of the trajectory of funds, and the evaluation, any evaluation feedback or discussion that we could have. So I'll stop my share here and turn it over to you, President Brown.
Thank you so much, Director Fleming. Thank you for that great presentation, and as well, thank you for the exceptional work that you are doing. I'm going to open it up to the board directors for questions. Board directors, if you have questions, please raise your hand at this time so you may be identified. We'll begin with Vice President Abbott, followed by Director Sinai.
Thank you so much. Do you want questions in sections or just on proposed plans? Do you want to go by bullet point, or do you want to just all over?
Well, I mean, I suppose, President Brown, we could address the plans and maybe work through an approval and then go on to the other topics, possibly.
I think that will be fine.
Okay. So regarding the proposed plans for next year, I just want to say, again, thank you to the P&O committee and for all of the staff for their hard work, because I know they put in tons of hours. I used to be able to put them in myself. And so I'm confident in supporting the proposed plans for next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Babbitt. Director Sinai.
Too, I echo the appreciation for all of the work that staff have put into this, and the P&O committee. It is probably one of the most in the weeds committee that has the very thoughtful and thorough analysis as we go forward, and staff are always meeting the needs of information flow and transparency. And I really appreciate the work that goes into this. I have just a quick question around the counseling component. And just to get a clarification, the counseling is academic counseling, not mental health counseling, right? I think it's important for the community to understand the difference. Because when we look at our mental health services, we're not seeing the same numbers of staffing. So I just wanted to get a clarification.
That is correct, Director Sinai. These are academic counselors at each middle school. However, I'm not sure, Ruben Aurelio or Associate Soup, if you know of any specific assignments for counselors through this funding at middle schools.
No, I don't. I agree with you. It's academic counseling, and Director Sinai, we are going to be bringing a mental health board presentation. We're looking at June 1st, so we should be able to
Great.
cover all of
I
that.
appreciate
Yeah.
that. So I just wanted to be clear with folks because the terminology can sometimes be confusing, and academic counselors are very different than mental health counselors. Really important, really critical to have at our schools, but are very different than mental health counselors. So I just wanted to make the delineation. So I also support all of the work that's been put into the plan, and appreciate your time. Sorry, I had one more question in the sense that this is in for action. It's on an action item. So I'm just curious are we taking action today? Because you also talked about coming back next week, but we're taking action on these pieces now, right?
That is correct. Next regular board meeting, I'll be bringing back the remaining 3 plans from BSEP and BERA that we did not cover tonight. So these are up for action for approval this evening, these 9 plans.
Are there any other questions from the board directors, I guess, on the trajectory of BSEP?
I just wanted to clarify, it does say counseling and behavioral health. So from that lens, it does support some of the other social emotional learning needs. BSEP does.
I hear what you're saying, Director Babbitt, and agree. I think what we need to do is just look into it further and differentiate ongoing and explain exactly what the counselor's responsibilities are. We could dig into the plan and that might be in there. I could take a look.
That would be good because when I saw the staffing, which is what most of the money was going to, it was looking like academic counselors.
Any other questions from the board on either the trajectory of BSEP funds or the evaluation approaches?
Yes, I had a question on the evaluation approach. In looking at the evaluations, first I want to thank the, again, the P&O committee, because this is something they've worked on for a couple of years at least, trying to make sure that not only did they approve, but they really were able to understand the focus, also from an equity lens. And so I appreciate the template. I appreciate all of the hard work that the many service provider leaders are putting into these templates, and it is definitely helpful. And the questions that the P&O community has, like it really is engaging and shows that they have a heart for our students and our students' success. I also noticed in looking at these evaluations that there aren't any areas for improvement really highlighted. I don't really see where the challenges are and where we need to kind of go and grow. And so I'm hoping that as we present this information, that we also include, the pitfalls, because we're not perfect. And a lot of these evaluations we get 5 stars across the board in everything we're doing. So, and I know that's true in some areas, and I know in some areas there's room for improvement. And so I'd like to be able to hear from the program managers about the challenges as well. Delays in timeline, delays in implementation, what's really in the meat that we as a board can help also support. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Vice President Babbitt. If I could respond, what you're bringing up are very good points. And actually in the annual reports for all the BSEP program, we do identify challenges in the prior year and current challenges in the fall. So I'm trying to work on tightening up this information cycle so that the reports on the previous year kind of connect to the plans for the next year. And in between, we have the story of the current year. So I appreciate those comments. And I just want to let you know that we are working to integrate that information across both reporting after the fact and planning and in between. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
Director Sinai.
Thank you. The question I had is, I really appreciate the comment that it's really hard to attribute success or improvement or failure to any one particular program when there's multiple contributions that are going to a student's outcomes. And so I'm wondering where you see, or where you and the P&O committee see the alignment with the LCAP around indicators. Because it seems like, you know, you guys have a list or a rubric kind of indicators, but we also have very clearly defined indicators already defined in the LCAP. So where the conversation is about how those two things align so that we aren't working, you know, in parallel play kind of thing, but it's aligned.
Okay, great. Thank you for that comment, and agreed. And we have discussed the LCAP goals. We have not specifically looked at the indicators. However, when we look at the LCAP indicators that are included, we know that those are some of the indicators that we will be using in BSEP as well. And there is alignment and overlap. So that's what I meant by my comment when I spoke about working with Brea in terms of understanding what data they're collecting and how they're reporting it, where they're reporting it, so we can align BSEP and BERA evaluation to those efforts, so we can have some alignment in that regard. So we don't want to have two separate projects, is what I'm saying, because we're all working to the same goals, right?
Right. And when we're setting, you know, whether it's through the LCAP or strategic planning, when we're setting priorities and indicators that go with those priorities, I would assume that we're also looking at how BSEP is contributing to those outcomes.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what I mentioned when I was talking about, when I showed the one slide on the relationship between the investments, the inputs, the outputs, and the outcomes, is you know, that we'll be looking at that, you know, that alignment and that how they support each other. And you know, one in the program proposals, many of the prompts say, how does your program, what you're proposing, align with district goals? So when we think about district goals, we can look at LCAP goals or our forthcoming goals in the forthcoming strategic plan. But the point is, I agree in that BSEP and BERA programs will reflect our overall district goals and contribute to those goals while they meet the goals of the measure. So we'll be looking at both. There's alignment, there's overlap, and we'll be able to carve out which each of those means and have a plan going forward. But definitely agreed, we will be working to align everything and not have redundancy or separate tracks of evaluation. But thank you for that.
Great, thanks.
Director Alper.
Thanks, President Brown. Thanks for those questions, Vice President Babbitt and Director Sinai. They're really thoughtful. And I just want to say a word about how fortunate I feel we are to have found you, Director Fleming. I think we all, you know, we're so worried about the huge shoes we had to fill when Natasha Beery left. And of course, nobody can fill her shoes or do all that she was doing. But to step into this role that's so complicated and so important, it's, you know, it's such a big part of our budget. And then to also have to think about renewing this, you know, BSEP in just a couple of years, it's really a monumental job. And I know there's so much work to do, and we all, you know, have a big part to play in it. But just listening to you present and the way you've worked so well with the in your first year with the P&O committee, it just gives me so much confidence in your leadership. And I'm feeling so grateful and fortunate that we have you in the district. So thank you so much, Director Fleming. And I guess my only question is, and maybe it's not appropriate now, so President Brown, you can just cut me off, but it would be great to hear about plans for the renewal in 2024. And this probably isn't the right time because we're talking about this particular budget, but I hope that that's on our agenda soon in some way so that we can hear about those plans and know how we can get plugged in and help support them.
Can I, before you answer that, Director Fleming, my question was actually similar to Director Alper's, more so in how do we get our greater city and community to know of these updates and all of these incredible things that they're doing. So when it becomes time for renewal, they're fully aware, familiar, and engaged with the work of BSEP.
Right, great questions. First of all, we will have at the May 18th regular board meeting in our presentation some slides on reauthorization. And I will also have that on the agenda for the P&O on the 24th. So what we'll be presenting there is revisiting the timeline from the last renewal and talking about our immediate next steps. And President Brown, to your point, totally agreed. And this is one reason why we really need to step up our evaluation and have these impact summaries. These reports on, the difference that BSEP programs have made, whether it's qualitative and quantitative, probably both. But this is why we need to chart a course for our evaluation with this in mind, because I really, I'm not sure that everyone in the community and at school sites knows what BSEP's funding specifically and how we have things here that other districts don't, and how unique we are and how fortunate we are. So it's our job and my job to make sure that that information is widely known and understood. So I do appreciate the question and recognize the importance of doing that sooner than later.
Thank you so much for that update, and please, of course, keep us in the know of ways we can be supportive to you in your work. I don't see any other questions from the board of directors, and so we will need to go ahead and vote. And our vote, Director Fleming, for this evening is to approve the recommendations of expenditures for BSEP funds in 2022 and 2023. Is that correct?
It is correct, except it's not the entirety of the BSEP funds. So you may want to read off the names of the 9 programs.
Okay, that's no problem. The 9 programs that we are approving tonight, the expenditure of BSEP funds for PD, BREA, ECO, classroom support, essentials for excellence, including libraries, music, VEPA, and instructional technology, as well as effective student support, achievement strategies, and counseling. Is that correct? Very good. With all that being said, is there a motion to approve this?
I'll move to approve.
It has been moved by Director Babbitt. Is there a second?
A second.
Seconded by Director Alper. Is there any in readiness? Hearing none, Ms. Lopez, can you please call the roll?
Director Sinai?
Yes.
Director Alper?
Yes.
Vice President Babbitt?
Yes.
President Brown?
Yes. Congratulations, and the motion passes. Thank you again, Director Fleming, for being here. Thank you for your work, and a special appreciation and thank you to the P&O committee for the extensive work that you do providing oversight for this amazing effort. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good night to you. Next, we will open up the second opportunity for public comment. If you would like to speak during this public comment period, please raise your hand at this time. As always, if you're a student, please identify yourself so that you will be given priority to speak. I see 2 hands raised for this second opportunity, and so each person will be given 3 minutes to speak. We will begin with Raquel Baham and then followed by Vicky.
Director Brown, how many minutes did you say?
Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to speak.
3 minutes. Got it.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you for asking.
So Raquel Baham, when I try to promote, keeps saying decline. So Raquel, I'm going to try to see if you can unmute. And are you able to unmute and start your comment?
I apologize.
There
Can
you
you
go.
hear me?
Yes, we can
I
hear you.
apologize. I did not realize I raised my hand. I was just listening to the meeting.
Oh, well, it's very nice to have you here and thank you for staying on to listen to the meeting. Have a good
Thank
evening.
you.
You're welcome.
You too.
Next, we will move to Vicky.
Vicky, you can try to unmute.
Hi there, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, hi Vicky, welcome.
Hi there, thank you. So I'm a parent of a Malcolm X second grader, and I'm really appalled to learn that next year she'll be in a third grade classroom of 28 students. Malcolm X currently has 4 second grade classrooms with around 85 students. Compressing this group into 3 classrooms next year is ridiculous. My child is currently experiencing mental health trauma and severe learning loss due to the COVID pandemic. Having first grade and distance learning at such a pivotal time in a young child's development and then transitioning back to the classroom has left many children anxious, unprepared to behave in a scholarly manner, out of practice on social skills, and behind academically. As a parent, I feel betrayed by the district and the BSEP measure. I feel like I was sold on a 23-to-1 ratio throughout K through 5. I've learned that this is not true and that classrooms are not even capped at 23. The average is not even by grade level, as this is indicating next year, third grade will not be an average of 23 at my school. Is this measured per school? Is it only across the district? This seems very unfair. In the previous measure, class sizes were not increased until 4th or 5th grade. I advocated for this measure, and now I'm going to have a larger class size at a lower level. Furthermore, this is an equity issue. We are rolling the ball forward and perpetuating the achievement gap. Next year, learning loss in these conditions will be perpetuated, rolling forward to even wider gaps in older grades and middle school. The time to close the gap is through our youngest kids before they fall behind. Yet the Malcolm X rising third graders will be the ones to suffer. And if the district cannot fund additional teachers, they are setting up my student and her peers for failure. To put our underpaid teachers in this position fills me with dismay. When we are already losing good teachers to cost of living and salary, now we will be losing them for breaking our commitment to smaller class sizes and unsustainable work conditions. Thank you.
Thank you as well, Vicky. And our last public commenter for this evening is Aaron Rayborn. Or Radborn.
Okay, I'm gonna try again. Let's see. Aaron, are you able to unmute and begin your
Now I
comment?
am. Can you hear me
Okay.
now?
Yes, we can hear you. Welcome.
I'm sorry about that. Thank you. I just want to echo what the previous speaker just said. I mean, if I'm understanding the measure correctly, I really did think that my let me just say that I am a parent of a second grader at Malcolm X too. And my son's going to be going into third grade next year. And I really expected that he would be staying in a class size that's about the same as what he is now. And if the previous comments were correct, then he would be going into a class of 28 students. And I'm just really confused. And I guess I'm pretty upset. I guess what I'm trying to say is that after spending, kindergarten and first grade in conditions that I think we would all agree contributed to a lot of learning loss and developmental issues, I just don't think that this is the right time for students to be, for my second grader to go into third grade with 28 other students with a teacher who has probably been through a lot in the past 2 years. We've asked a lot of our teachers. We're asking a lot of young children. I mean, society is asking a lot of young children to sacrifice so much these last 2 years. So I'm seeing the toll that this is going to take on teachers and how it's going to stress out students. And I'm sad to hear that there would be 28 students in that class. And I guess I just wanted to express my frustration. And I think that third grade teachers need smaller class sizes so that we can make up some of that ground. I mean, we've promised to make up some of that learning lost, and I don't think this is the way to do it. So, and lastly, I'll just say, I read an article today in Berkeley side that said that we're losing teachers in Berkeley for, several reasons, but I think this would contribute to it. I mean, third grade teachers were not prepared, I don't think, to have a larger class size next year. So thank you for hearing me out. I appreciate the time, and I just would like to have it known that I don't think that the third grade teachers are prepared for this, and neither are my student or the other students in his class. Thank you.
Thank you as well. Thank you to all of you who stayed for the second opportunity for public comment, and for all of you who stayed for the rest of our meeting. We have also reached the second opportunity for board member comments. Board members, do you have any additional comments this evening?
Yes, I do actually. I just want to acknowledge the Longfellow students who wanted to take agency over their experience around culture and climate at their school, and ask that we really take notice and to look into what their requests were, and that at the next board meeting we're prepared to really address and hear and understand what our students are asking for, and to really discuss how we can meet their needs. So I wanted to celebrate them and thank them, and let them know that while we've just recently become aware of it, we do plan to make sure that we take action to hear their concerns. Thank you so much.
Thank you. No other comments from board members. And so our meeting is adjourned. Have a good evening, everyone.